seen a guy. Happy Easter. And as you can see right now, we're on the Moveville, reviewing the movie. I bet none of you were expecting that. It's been a long time since I've done a movie review. But it's Easter. Got a bit of free time on my hands. Got a bit of a break from work. And I like to think I can upload videos for all of my subscribers who look at my channel for different things. But the one thing that my subscribers subscribe to my channel for is for my movie reviews. But I'm sorry I haven't done them in a long time. But it's Easter, it's a special occasion, and I want to feel like I want to give a movie review. And I thought to myself, what shall I review? I thought, why not review a movie that we're all familiar with? A movie that is an instant classic. In my opinion, the greatest shark movie ever made. One of Steven Spielberg's finest movies. Steven Spielberg has directed loads of great masterpieces. But one of my favourites is obviously this movie right here that I'm talking about, Jaws. Okay, now I reviewed all the Jaws movies on my own previous channel before it got deleted. I talked deeply about Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, and then Jaws Revenge. The first movie is the best one in the franchise, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the movie is like over 2 hours long. But it's one of those rewatchable movies that you could watch over and again and again and again. I mean, this movie was made in 1975. I mean, it's 2021 now, and we've seen loads of movies come our way. But if there's a movie you could revisit back into the 70s, like this movie made in 1975, and you could choose a movie that doesn't get you bored, you are intrigued by the characters, you like what's going on. It's just, this movie is definitely going to be one of those movies. Jaws, the first one. I mean, it's a straightforward plot. We've got some likeable characters in this movie. We've got Robert Shaw, of course, who plays Quint. Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Hopper. And, of course, Roy Scheider, who plays the Chief of Police, Chief Brody. Okay, they're the three main characters in this movie. There's also Lorraine Gary, who plays Roy Scheider's wife in this movie. And also, I like to mention one particular actress who I've met in this movie, because I've met one cast member from this movie, and that was the first shot victim at the start of this movie, the woman, Christy. The first shot victim, the girl that gets naked, goes into the ocean, and she gets pulled down by the shark and eaten. I've met her. She was a real sweet woman. She's the only cast member of the Jaws movie that I've seen to this day, so please check that review out. It's another one of the reasons why I chose to review the Jaws movie, because I did that review on the only cast member that I met. One of the reasons anyway. But anyway, Jaws is a movie which I think we've all seen by now, and I don't know many people who dislike this movie, Jaws. They can't help but love what's going on. I'd say if there's a pace in the movie where we feel like the movie's going on a bit, I'd say it was the last half of the movie, where the three men are on the Orca, the boat. There are some scenes which I admit that go on a little bit long. But however, with that being said, there was no, at any time, any stages of boredom. And there was no stages at all where you wanted to pause the movie or forward it a little bit more or anything like that. I think this movie is a masterpiece from start to finish, particularly the second half of the movie, where you've got the three guys on the Orca, their chemistry together, the way they're working together to try and kill this great white shark. I mean, like I said, the movie opens up at this island. It's a beach party. People are drinking, having a good time. The first shark victim, which I already mentioned, Christy, is got this crush on this guy who's looking at her at the party. He passes out on the beach because he's had too much to drink. Christy goes into the ocean and she violently gets killed by the shark, pulled down into the water. She's screaming, she's yelling. But obviously the guy's too drunk to figure out what's going on, and she eventually gets eaten by the shark. Her remains get washed up onto the beach, and the Chief of Police, Chief Brody, and a number of other officers go to investigate the scene. And of course, to find the remains, and instantly Roy Scheider's character, Chief Brody, knows there's something not quite right. He truly believes there's a shark out there. But that's when later on in the movie, Richard Dreyfuss's character, this marine biologist and oceanographer, comes to look at the remains to clarify what's going on. And like I say, I liked his simple one-liners. This was no boat accident. And it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a shark. You know, he clarifies it's a shark, like. I mean, understanding the character, I mean, Chief Brody's character, like I say, he's the chief of police. He likes to think he does a good job of his work, you know. He's always been pestered by the residents and all that kind of thing. He's not a big fan of the water, despite living on an island. But he likes to think he does a good job with his role as chief of police. You know, he does a good job of like trying to basically protect everybody. You know, I mean, when this whole situation was happening with the remains of that girl, Christy, about straight away, he wants to close the beaches. But you've got the mayor, you know, he's got the 4th of July on his mind. He wants to make sure that the beaches are stayed open so everyone can have a good time. You know, Roy Scheider's character is basically against the idea, telling the mayor that the beaches aren't safe. There's a shark out there, but the mayor doesn't listen to any of the warnings. He's saying we've got to have the beaches open and blah, blah, blah. You know, so basically the chief of police and the mayor are like going back and forth debating about the safety of the beaches, basically. I mean, we get that memorable scene, like on the beach, where Roy Scheider's character is like watching everybody in the sea. There's a guy playing with his dog, you know, who the dog gets eaten by the shark, swallowed whole, but we don't see it. And then, of course, you got that boy Alex, who like goes like out onto the water with his lilo. He gets killed by the shark. You know, you see a bloody scene where he gets swallowed by the shark. You know, they offer out a reward and all that kind of thing. And basically, Robert Shaw's character gets briefly introduced in Quint. You know, he's like got his own boat, the Orca, and he's like a bit of a go-getter. He's like I can't remember how much they offered, but he says you'll get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. So basically, despite there being a shark out there, he's willing to gamble his life to go out and capture the shark for the reward money. You know, you feel a bit sorry for Roy Scheider's character, Chief Brody, in this, because he wasn't the asshole in this, it was the mayor. But then again, when Alex's mother slaps him across the face and blames him for, you know, his son's death, you know, he takes it really personally, he takes it really hard. And then he feels like it's his responsibility to go out and kill the shark. I mean, at first they thought they got the shark because they captured a tiger shark. You know, all these fishermen did. And they were led to believe that that was a shark that was doing all the, you know, killing all the victims, like. But Richard Dreyfuss obviously examines the sharks. He says the bite radius was different from the ones on the victim. You know, he says there's a great white shark out there, a deadly great white shark. And basically, from then on, it's like the characters all coming together, you know, trying to work together to go out on one big mission, go out to sea to try and kill the shark. I mean, don't pay any attention to that fucking bullshit that you saw in fucking Jaws 4: The Revenge about the shark taking things fucking personal. That movie's a fucking disgrace. It's an abomination to all mankind. It's a disgrace to sharks. You know, like Hopper said, Richard Dreyfuss' character, he says it's a normal machine. All this machine does is swim, eat, and make little sharks, and that's it. I mean, like I said, this movie from start to finish is a true masterpiece. But I must say, the best part of the movie, in well, personal favourite of my opinion, was the second half of the movie. Where, like I said, there was only 3 characters featured. You know, Roy Scheider's character, Richard Dreyfuss' character, and Robert Shaw's character all on the boat. Where, of course, at the first half of the movie, you got all the mayor and all the different residents and all that. But my favourite part of the movie was definitely the second half of the movie. I mean, a lot happened. I mean, I won't say a lot happened, but a lot of interesting things happened. I mean, like I say, they're on the boat. I love that bickering, the bickering scenes that happen between Quint and Hopper. You know, Richard Dreyfuss' character and Robert Shaw's character. You know, there's a scene where Quint snaps and he destroys the radio when Roy Scheider tries to make an SOS call. But the scene in this movie, and I think this was the scene that Steven Spielberg stated as his personal favourite, was the scene where Quint was telling the story about the Minneapolis story, because they get drunk on the boat and they're exchanging stories about different scars that they've got. And Quint talks about this tattoo he got removed. But he tells his speech about the time when he was on the boat delivering the bomb and the Minneapolis speech. I think that was, like I said, Steven Spielberg's his favourite part of the movie. I'd say the truth, I think that movie won an Oscar as well, like the way Robert Shaw told the story, how he described how he was very frightened about the time when they did the bombing and those sharks eating people one by one. So we like really go into detail. I mean, you learn a lot about Robert Shaw's character in that movie, about why he's so stubborn, about why he's so serious, and how his life's been affected by what happened to him all them years ago in the Minneapolis. You know, it's a very moving scene, and it goes very deep into the story and telling more about the background of the character's life. You know what I mean? There's a scene where they start singing. The great white shark is banging the side of the boat, causing leaks into the ship. I mean, the following day, the ship's getting badly damaged by the shark. They're doing everything that they can to try and, they put a tracker on the shark as well. Also, I like that scene in the cage where Richard Dreyfuss's character is like inside the shark cage and he's trying to, put poison into the shark, and the shark like rips the cage to pieces, and then Richard Dreyfuss's character just swims to the bottom of the sea and stays out of sight for his own safety. Of course, there's the demise of Quint. I was really sad to see the character get killed because it was one of my favourite characters, but the way it was done was really good. I mean, the shark like leaps onto the boat as it's sinking. He falls down and he like bites into Quint, pulls him down into the water, and then basically it was all up to Chief Brody's job to try and kill the shark, and he succeeds. He puts the tank in his mouth, and of course when the boat's pretty much near enough at the bottom of the ocean, he's firing at the fucking tank, and he says, "Smile, you son of a bitch," and shoots it, and the shark fucking blows up. Great scene, great way to kill off the shark. And then in just the ending, it shows Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider fucking swimming back to the island, after when they've killed the shark. It's a fantastic movie. I mean, for those of you who have not seen this movie, Jaws, I really recommend you do. It's got to be undoubtedly possibly the best shark movie ever made. I mean, since then you've seen other films like Deep Blue Sea and those other shark movies, and plus a sequel to this movie as well. You got a 2, 3, and 4, The Revenge, and I think there was like a TV movie called Cruel Jaws as well, which really I'm not a big fan of. But undoubtedly a masterpiece by Steven Spielberg. He did a great job directing this movie, and I think this movie deserved every award it got. So from start to finish, there's no signs of boredom, there's no signs of dragging, and it's a very rewatchable movie where you can watch again and again. And again, it was one of them horror movies that put the fear of life into all the viewers, making them not want to ever go back in the water again. And I have to admit, it did that to me. When I watched this movie, every time I went on holiday to Spain with my mother, God bless her soul, I was always scared of going in the fucking beach, in the sea, swimming out too far just in case a fucking shark will come. And it did that to many viewers. Again, it was the horror movie that put the fear in God into everybody for swimming in the ocean, But one thing I do want to point out about this movie is the extras. I mean, I've got the Blu-ray of this Jaws. I'd say the truth, there's loads of bonus features, and one thing I was really impressed with about this movie, it had the documentary in as well called "The Shark Is Still Working," the impact and legacy of Jaws. And it's like a documentary about how they made the film. It goes into detail as to why we did not show so many scenes of the shark in the Jaws movie, because it kept breaking down and all that kind of stuff. So the documentary is really worth checking out, and this Blu-ray edition does have the documentary. But we've also got bonus features as well, like the deleted scenes and the outtakes or storyboards. There's photographs, the Jaws marketing, and there's interviews with certain characters and the director and all that kind of thing. So, like I say, this Blu-ray edition is fully remastered and restored. Like I said, great exclusives and bonus features. So, if you are planning on ordering Jaws, please make sure you get the Blu-ray edition. It's nice to see a 1975 movie on Blu-ray, but also at the same time you get all the bonuses and the exclusive features, some which the DVD didn't have. You know what I mean? Because I used to own this on DVD and VHS, but got rid of them and got them on the Blu-ray because there's so much more packed into the special features side of things. So again, I've got no complaints about this movie. A masterpiece, it always will be. I've seen the movie countless times. Like I say, I love Roy Scheider's performance, Robert Shaw's performance, Richard Dreyfuss's performance. I thought they all worked really together in this movie. The characters, how they bonded and all that kind of thing. You know, it's a simple story about a great white shark, you know, and they're going out there to kill it, or, you know, to stop it from killing all the other people on the island. You know, so simple concept, but it worked. And again, it was like really fantastically well done, well shot, you know, with the scenes underwater and the music as well. Who can forget the unforgettable music? So yeah, every award that this movie got, I think it deserved it. You know, it's definitely going to go down in history as possibly one of the best films that Steven Spielberg's ever made, and no doubt the best shark movie as well, the first one. That's all I've got to say, everyone. Please like, rate, and comment if you have got any questions. Happy Easter, everyone. Peace out.